For those that don't know, I'm Philip Haught. I'm the children's pastor here, and you get to hear me speak today. Woo! There's a reason. We're in our series on One Extraordinary, right? I'm down there, so I don't ever know exactly what's happening. One Extraordinary Family, and we talked about marriage last couple weeks, and today we're going to talk about kids and the importance of kids, not only to God, but to us as parents. And so you can title it if you want. You can say I talked about whatever, however you want to say it. It's fine by me. That it's just a phase. And in life, we all go through phases, and sometimes we're like hoping that the phase goes by quickly. We all get stuck in that awkward teenage phase. Sometimes it lasts longer than others. Still kind of stuck there. It's okay. But we get stuck in these phases, and kids are kind of stuck in a phase. They go by very quickly. And so you're going to see a few more videos like that one. I was told that I made William cry this morning because he watched it. Yeah. You'll probably cry too, don't worry. They're pretty sad. Not sad, they're emotional, sentimental. Thank you, that's a good word. So we'll see a few more. But the thing is, our kids are kind of in a very short phase. We have them for a very short period of time. Sometimes it feels like forever, but it's not always. And they're really important. God gives them to us for a reason. And there's a couple verses I want to share with you that kind of help explain that. There we go. So this one, I can read it back. I'll read it back. People are also bringing babies to Jesus. They wanted him to place his hands on the babies. When the disciples saw this, they told the people to stop. But Jesus asked the children to come to him. Let the little children come to me, he said. Don't keep them away. God's kingdom belongs to people like them. What I'm about to tell you is true. Anyone who will not receive God's kingdom like a little child will never enter it. Luke 18, 15 through 17. See, God saw the important. He saw the value of kids, and he said, don't keep them away. Keep bringing them. They aren't the future. They're the now. Bring them now. So there's another verse. This is one that you'll see in a lot of kids' ministries. So direct your children, or there's lots of ways they say it, but direct your children onto the right path, and when they're old, they will not leave it or depart from it. Proverbs 22:6. And basically it breaks down to this. You have to start them off well. You have to have a good start. If you don't have a good start, the rest of it kind of falls apart. Oh, stupid video. It got me. I'm tearing up a little bit. Give me a second. All right. You have to have a good start. I have a friend who in high school and in college, he was a runner. He still runs, just not as much. He always told me that when he was done with college, he's going to get fat. He still didn't. He's a jerk. Sorry. But the one thing I always learned from him was that when you're running a race, the most important part is your start. If you have a bad start, most likely the rest of your race is going to go badly. If you start off well, you have a better chance of continuing well and ending well. It's the same with kids. Their life has to start right. You have to start off correctly and keep them on that same path. All right, next verse. You're just going to get all 4 verses right at the beginning. All right, it says, don't you see that children are God's best gift? The fruit of the womb, his generous legacy. Like a warrior's fistful of arrows are children of a vigorous youth. That word just makes me laugh. Vigorous. It's funny. Oh, how blessed are you parents with your quivers full of children. Your enemies don't stand a chance against you. You'll sweep them right off your doorstep. Psalms 127, 3 through 5. They're a gift. God doesn't give bad gifts. He gives good gifts. Things to cherish and take care of. That's why he gives them to us. They're a legacy for us to pass on and continue on. Why am I getting weepy? What is wrong with me? It's crazy. Yeah, oh, don't worry. You'll see pictures. But that's the thing. They are our gift from God. There's something he's given to us to take care of and to mold and to use to change the future. The one thing I know about arrows, I've shot archery before in my life. I'm okay. I'm not great. But what I know about arrows is this. If they stay in your quiver and you don't do anything with them, they're useless. Poking people with arrows, I've tried it. They were toys. It was my brother. He deserved it. But still, they don't do anything. When you put them in the bow and you shoot them, that's when you get use out of them. Last verse. This is one that I love. I love this verse. This has been spoken over my life, and I think it should be spoken over all kids. Don't let anyone look down on you because you are young. Set an example for the believers in what you say and in how you live. Also set an example in how you love and in what you believe. Show the believers how to be pure. 1 Timothy 4:12. One thing I know about age is it really is just a number. We hear that, and we say it, and we're like, oh, it's just a number. No, it really is. It's just a number. It means nothing, except when it comes to dating my daughter, then it means everything, and stay away from her. She's too young for anyone until she's dead. So no. But it is just a number. But the thing is this, kids, they're not the future church, they're still the now church. And we have to teach them now how to live so that they can teach the future kids how to live as the now church then. That makes sense if you think about it. And it's not about the future, it's not about teaching them so when they're older they'll be good Christians. No, it's teaching them so they know now, so they can set an example for not only the kids in their schools and their neighborhoods, but for you and for me, because we can learn stuff from these kids that we never thought possible. Because we don't have a whole lot of time with them. There's not a lot of time set up for us to have with them. It seems like a lot. I'll break it down for you in a couple minutes, but there's not really a lot. So it kind of rushes by. Let's see how fast it rushes by. Prepare to cry. Goes by really fast. So I am a children's pastor, and so I had to bring a little bit of kids ministry, kids church into adult service because I always find it fun. So we do something in kids church that's called Story Time with Miss Stacy. However, you have to intro it correctly. So it goes like it's Story Time with Miss Stacy. You ready? Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Story time with Stacy. No, it's Miss Stacy. And you got to do it correctly. I'll do it with you this time. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Story time with Miss Stacy. There you go. That's how it's done. You're up.
Okay.
Sorry. For those that don't know, this lovely lady is my wife, Miss Stacy. Now you've been introduced.
Okay, so since this is a kid's book, you have to get into it as well. So I'm reading the book to you. So put your mind as a child and listen to the story. There are things about you quite unlike any other. Things always known by your father or mother. So if you decide to be different one day, no worries. I'd know you anyway. If one day we were walking and talking, just us, when you're abracadabra, a rhinoceros, I might be surprised, but just for a while. I'd know it was you by your magical smile. If early one morning you put on your socks and declare, "For today, I'm a little red fox," I'd say, my, that's quite a disguise. But I'd know it was you by the gleam in your eyes. If you were a camel, I'd know by your grin. A little pink pig, by your chinny chin. White snowy owl, among other things, I'd know by the flap of your snowy owl wings. Would you mind flapping them? Can you say who? Yes, without question, I'd know it was you. My eyes and my ears and my arms always know, from the top of your head to your tiniest toe. Wild spotted pony, easy, my sweet. I'd know it was you by the sound of your feet. If you were a bear cub, I'd know by your nose. Ringtail raccoon, by your clever tiptoes. Blue-footed booby, I'd know at first glance by your wonderful, one-of-a-kind happy dance. And if one fine day you got bored and you'd said, "Today I'm not me, I'm a lion instead," even if I'd never heard it before, I'd know it was you by the sound of your roar. Would you mind roaring a second or two? See, without question, I'd know it was you. I know you by heart, so my heart never misses. I'd know you by your whiskery kisses. Fox or koala, giraffe or raccoon, anything, anywhere under the moon. Whatever it is you imagine to be, I'll be just so proud that you belong to me. I'll kiss every whisker and soothe every hair, because, child of mine, I'd know you anywhere. You are loved.
Oh, wait. I have those pictures. I have to catch up. See, the reason we read that story, one day we're sitting at home and she's reading a story to Emery, and out of his room, she comes running and she's like, "You have to use this!" And she read it to me, and I, of course, in my head went, "She's right." I say it in my head so I don't have to say it out loud. If I say it too often, she knows. She knows anyways, but I at least pretend like I'm smart. So, but as parents, we have multiple jobs with our kids, protection, all that kind of stuff. But one of them is just to know our kids, to know them by simple, small things. One is a laugh. A laugh is either all right. I told you pictures. This is the video. Listen. He was watching Bernard or something. It's some like French kids show on his iPad. Yeah. And that was my dog in the background, the jingle that you heard. So it's a whole family affair today. But you know them by the simplest thing. You know them by their laugh. I love his laugh. You know them by their smile. You can, it's my daughter Eloise. That was my son Emery. You got names now. But you know them by the simplest, smallest things. Now she's starting to yell at us, and it's adorable. I love it. It's only started in the last couple days, so I didn't have time to get a video of it. But it's those small, tiny things. And you know them by anything and everything. I mean, when I hear footsteps running down the hallway towards my office, I know it's him. When I hear like chatter, I know it's because that's what our job is. Our job is to know our kids by the simplest, smallest things. And one of the things I've noticed is that as our kids get older, we begin to know them less and less. We start to know them less because they spend more time away from us. They spend more time with their friends or more time at school. And the laugh, it changes a little bit. Or the smile, you don't see it quite as much. And we start to know them less enough. So it's so important now when they're young to spend that time getting to know them so that as they get older, you don't begin to know them less and less, but like the book says, you know them by anything and everything. See, because that's our job. It's our job to provide for them, to take care of them, but most of all, it's our job to spend time with them. It's our job to teach them. Not just teach them like how to tie your shoe and how to spell your name, but to teach them how to live for Christ. It's our job as parents to teach them that. But that time kind of goes by really quickly. Let's see how quickly it continues to go by. One more. There we go. That's what would be going through my head. Okay. So far we watched this girl go from 0 to 15. That's the age range we've seen. And it feels like, I can remember back, Friday will be 4 months since my daughter was born. I remember back to the day she was born. I remember driving into the hospital. They were burning orange peels. So every time I smell them burning orange peels, I always think of that day, which is kind of cool. I hate that smell because it smells kind of gross to me, but I love that smell at the same time because it reminds me of that day. And so it feels like, I remember that day happening is like, I have forever. It's so long. But we really don't. It's just this really short, quick burst of time. In fact, I did some math to break it down for us. All right, let's see some math. See? Some math. All right. So in that jar you have 396 marbles, one representing every single week you have with your child between the ages of 0 and 18. You have 6,570 days. Seems like a lot. 157,680 hours between 0 and 18. And we look at that number, we think it's so much, but here's the thing, we don't really have that much time. That much time is if you spent every single waking hour with your child without break, without stop, no sleep, nothing. But we know that we have some things that come in our way. We have some stuff that happens. So here's some time. This is time that we spend doing stuff. So between 0 and 18, you lose 52,560 hours sleeping if you sleep 8 hours a night. If you're a teenager, imagine doubling that because you probably lost that much. Working, 40 hours a week, not including commute, 37,440 hours. Randomly 2 hours a week, you lose 2,808 hours a week. That's how much time you lose just doing the normal everyday stuff that you have to do. You can't go without sleep or else you die, or you just pass out and then your kids would do whatever they wanted. That's scary. So you kind of have to have this time spent doing other stuff. So we see those numbers and we're like, well, yeah, but that's still, 157, that's still a lot of hours. Okay, so here's what you have left after all that's taken out. You have 64,872 hours. You have 2,703 days. That's just time available to spend with your family. And that doesn't include time taken out for date nights or time taken out for if your kids go away for the summer or if your kids are away for a weekend at grandma's or if your kid, that doesn't take that time out. That's just if you spent every hour outside of work, sleeping, and just a couple hours here and there randomly throughout the week. You see how time quickly goes? You went from having, 157,680 hours to 64,872. Our time is not very long. And see, the time that we do have is important because we need to spend that time teaching our kids how to follow Christ. It's our job as parents to do that. It's not my job as a children's pastor. I'll get into that a little bit more in a second. You can think about that for a second and be like, then why do we hire this guy? There's a reason. Forget I said anything. But it's our job to teach them. And not just by teaching them by reading the Bible to them or bringing them to church. That is important, that helps. But we teach them by our actions. And not just our actions when we think they're looking, but our actions when we don't know they're looking. Because here's the thing, I know I watch when people don't think I'm looking, all the time. Facebook, all that. I watch people and I see what they're doing, and I just kind of, not to judge, but just to be like, hey, what's going on in that person's life? And I see how they live. And our kids do the same thing. In fact, Ansel shared this story with me about my own son the other day because I didn't know he was looking at me. Last week, I had to run back to my office real quick after service. And so there were some people, a couple of our teen guys in the doorway just talking. And I didn't want to be rude and just walk through the middle of them. So I had to add a little to it because, like I said, stuck in that awkward teenage phase. So I did this. Just between them, and kept walking. I didn't stop, I didn't say anything, I just kept going. And what I didn't know is that my son was standing behind me and did the exact same thing. I had no idea he was back there. I didn't know he was watching, but that's the thing. We don't know they're watching. We don't know they're doing the things they are. And the thing is, there's little things that we don't know that they're picking up on, like my keys. I realized this not that long ago. I carry my keys this way because my dad carried his keys this way. It's a weird thing that it's not like, I want to be my dad, I'm going to carry my keys that way. It was just something I saw and it stuck out, and so that's how I always carried my keys. There's little things that they see and we don't notice or pay attention to. So we have to teach them through our actions every second of every day. My degree is in education. I went to school to be a teacher. It's not what God called me to do. It was I used everything I learned, but that's not what he called me to do. And the thing that they teach you there is that you're a teacher when you're in the classroom. You're a teacher when you're outside the classroom. I've known a bunch of people that have gotten kicked out of their internships or have stopped getting calls to be substitute teachers because they were not living the same lifestyle they were showing in the classroom outside of the classroom. I've known lots of Christians that don't live the same lifestyle in church or outside of church that they do in church. They don't live the same lifestyle in front of their kids that they do in front of you and me. But God tells us that we need to follow him and teach them how to live every second of every day because they're watching us. And no, they pick up on the littlest things. And we have to make sure that they're following a good example. Okay, go back to what I said earlier. So as a parent, it is our job to teach our children to follow Christ. As a children's pastor, it is not my job to teach your children to follow Christ. That sounds weird because I'm the children's pastor, and as a pastor, that's our job. That's not our job. It's not Ansel's job to teach you to follow Christ. It is your job, well, it kind of is, but it's your job to follow Christ. It's his job to help you. My job as a children's pastor is to be supplementary to you. You are the primary in teaching your children to follow Christ. I'm supplementary. My job is to fill in the little spaces and to come alongside you and help teach them to follow Christ. It is my job to be an example, just like it's your job to be an example. But you are the ones that are teaching them. In fact, I have more math. More math. I believe in making things simple. So, in a year, this is after sleeping and work and all that stuff, you have 3,760 hours with your kids. I have 200 at best. That's if you show up every Wednesday and every Sunday. That's if we don't do extra stuff here and there. So, to make it, this is you and the hours you have with your kids. This is me. You have 80%, roughly 80% more time with your kids than I do. I don't have that much time. That's why it's your job, not my job. My job is to come alongside you, add my 200 hours into your time, and teach them even more. To set you up to be successful. That's why it's not my job. It's my job to fill in and be supplementary. We can go to the blank slide. And here's the reason why this is such a massively important thing to reach them when they're with me. You find it's different depending upon where you look. Barna did if you don't know Barna, they do lots of studies and things, and did one about 12 or more years ago about the chances of someone accepting Christ based on age. And it's probably, the numbers changed, I'm guessing, but roughly it's in the 40s. It's about 40, they have a 40% chance of accepting Christ before the age of 13. After that age, you just see it slowly drop off more and more and more. So 40% higher chance of accepting Christ before 13. Not only that, the other cool part that I read was that if they accept Christ before the age of 13, they are 2 times more likely to follow Christ the rest of their lives. 2 times more likely. Don't quote me on that, but that's something like that. They are far more likely to follow Christ the rest of their lives than they are if they accept after that age. Because it's instilled in them. They've learned it their whole life. It's not something that they're going to question. It's something that they know to be true. That's why it's so important that you are an example to your kids of how to live for Christ. That's why it's so important that you have your kids here every week so that they can hear more about Christ and how to live for him. At home, at church, everywhere they go to hear more about how they can live for Christ. The younger they are, the better chance you have of them accepting Christ. Here's the main goal of kids ministry. Ready? If you look at this picture, you see 3 colors. You see the church is yellow, you see the family is red, and in the middle you see orange. There's this cool, it's not a theory, it's cool children's ministry that is going on, and they teach a lot and they do all that. And it's called Orange. And the reason it's orange, it's when family and church meets, you get orange. And that's when you're successful. Because I can sit there all week long and plan, and then 2 hours comes, and I teach your kids for 2 hours, and they hear it, and it's great, and they go home, and 2 hours later, they've forgotten everything I've said. If you're not living it at home and talking to them about it, they aren't going to remember. It's not going to stick with them very well. They'll remember a little bit, but they won't remember. They'll remember the game we play. We do more than play games, I promise you. That's just generally what I talked to William about it, and he asked his kids what they learned. Oh, we played this game. That was like 5 minutes of 2 hours. What are you talking about? But when family and church comes together and meets in the middle, you get orange. You become a team, and that's our goal as kids ministers. That's my goal as a kids minister, is to come together with you, the parents, you, the family, and reach your kids alongside you. Not for you, but with you. Because when we work together, we're able to reach them much more successfully. So here's the thing that I want you to understand. Every week in Kids Church, we have a main point. It's taking everything we're learning and summing it up into one short phrase. And we run it through them like 15 times because we want them to remember. Every week when you pick your kids up from church, when you're in the car on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, ask them what they learned. If they can't tell you, email me. I'll tell you, and you can talk to them about it. Talk to them throughout the week about what they learned so they're remembering and it's instilled in them. Talk to them about what you learned. I've encouraged them. I started this last week. Their job is now when they get out of church and you pick them up to look at you and say, hey, what did you learn in church today? I want to make sure you're paying attention too. So that when Ansel, at the end of the week, he can ask me, and I'll be like, did they tell you what they learned? And I'll be like, yeah, they did. And they learned something good. But ask them, talk to them about what they learned, talk to them about what you learned. Find a devotional to do with them. Spend 5 minutes a night reading the Bible with them. Pray with them before they go to sleep. And this isn't, I'm talking to me too. Like, I have to make sure I do this. We have to make sure we spend that time with our kids, teaching them how to follow Christ. Because that's why it's so important. That's one of the reasons we have kids, is to teach them to follow Christ, to follow our legacy of following Christ. And see, how many people don't have kids that are in kids ministry? Yeah, you're not off the hook. You have a job too. Beginning of March, my wife and I stood up here with our family around us and you in front of us. And we prayed over my daughter and dedicated her to Christ. And what I remember from that day is this. There came a moment when Ansel asked the family if we were dedicating our lives to make sure that we raise her correctly. And then he looked at you and said the same exact thing. And do you know what you told me? Yes. And that means you are in it with me, the parent. I am in it with you, the parent, not as the children's pastor, but as another parent, to dedicate my life to living so that your kids see how to live for Christ through how I live, outside of being a children's pastor. That my kids see how to live for Christ from you. Sorry, I'll stop pointing this out. You. I'm pointing at, it's not all about, sorry, I'm not picking on you guys. And that's what God wants us to do. That's what we're called to do as parents, as Christians, as grandparents. It doesn't matter if you have kids or not. Your job is still the same thing. Not only that, your job is to get involved down there and reach these kids. It's not enough to walk in and hope that they see you, because they're going to see you. And I have another story that goes along with this. When the first church I was at as a children's pastor was 5-6 years ago, something like that. And I was in this weird phase. I'd wear vests a lot, and I'd roll my sleeves. I still do the sleeve thing. I stopped the vest, so thankfully. That was weird, sorry. But one Sunday, one of the kids walked in, and guess what he was wearing? He was wearing a vest, and he had his sleeves rolled up. Not only a vest, he was wearing a Christmas vest that was wool, and it was like the middle of summer. And it was in Florida, so it was hot. And the parents walked in and said, do you see what he's wearing? I said, yeah, that's kind of weird. Do you know why he's wearing that? I said, no. He's like, because you wear that. Yeah, you get it? They see what you're doing, even when you don't know. I didn't know. I'm around him, so I figure he was seeing what I was doing, but I didn't think, hey, my vest is going to rub off on him. If I did, I would have apologized. But they see what we're doing. They see how you're living, and they start to follow. And if you're not living the way we're supposed to live as Christians, they're going to start questioning, well, then maybe it's just my dad. Maybe it's just a family thing. Because the rest of the church, they do whatever. They say all sorts of craziness, and they live differently. Maybe that's just because my dad. He doesn't want me to have fun. No, we need to see you doing the exact same thing. We need to see you involved. And here's the thing. I know some people think that kids ministry is hard. It's not. I'll do the heavy lifting. In fact, I have an example. Kelby, come here. I'll show you how hard kids ministry is. You ready? Hey, man. How was your week? Good. Do you get in your baseball game? If you know that he had a baseball game, don't make it up. Yeah, okay, cool. And play the games with him. That part's fun. That's easy. We have basketball and other cool games down there. And then church starts. Hey, can I sit next to you? All right, cool. You say yes. Yeah. Thank you. Sit down. And then you sit there. And here's all you have to do. Hey, man, we got to pay attention. Oh, that Pastor Philip, he's hilarious. I think that guy's so funny. Man, they should pay him more. They should. So that's a subliminal message. That's a lie. You're in trouble. But that's all you have to do. You sit down, you talk to him. You don't have to teach. You play the games. You talk to him, you get to know him. I know Kelby is good at basketball. I'd challenge him to a game of basketball. I would totally win because I would cheat. That's why he would beat me if I didn't cheat. I know Kelby because I spend time getting to know him. I know the kids down there because I spend time getting to know them. You need to be involved somewhere. You can go back, sorry. That's how hard it is. You sit down, you talk, and then you pay attention to what's going on. That's all you got to do. It's not hard. I promise we'll make it easy on you. And fun. I'm kind of funny most of the time. Not always, and like that. And you were supposed to laugh at that part, but see, it doesn't always follow through. But that's the thing. We need you to be involved in their lives, just like you need to be involved in their lives. You need yourself to be involved in their lives. You need to find a place to get involved. Maybe it's just holding babies. That's fine. I would love to have people that love God hold my daughter and sing. I remember hearing stories when I was a kid about my grandmother doing that exact thing for babies in the nursery. That's what I want for my daughter. I want people that are passionate about reaching kids for God. Shut up. Stop crying. Sorry. I'll get it together. Because that's what we need. So here's my challenge to you. Before we watch it and see how old this girl hit the last day of 18. Get involved somewhere. Find a spot to change a kid's life. Because that's what you do in kids ministry. I don't change their week, I change their life. You as parents, teaching them to live for Christ, change their destiny. Get involved. All right, let's see 15 to 18 really quick, and then we'll finish up. Time's short. It seems like a lot when you start out, but as you lose day after day, hour after hour, you realize that there's not a lot of time left. And we need you to get involved. You need to get involved. Their kids need you to show them how to live for Christ. Because they face stuff every day that we don't know what they face. They're facing stuff that we never imagined a first grader, a fifth grader facing. But they are. And they need you to show them how to live for Christ. They need you to stand beside them and say, I'm with you. I got you. So if you stand up with me, we're going to go into our prayer time. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to pray for our kids. I'm going to pray for you. So if you want to pray by yourself, you can come to this side. If you want to pray with someone, you come to this side. And here's what I want you to pray for. Wisdom and how to lead our kids and teach them to follow Christ. Guidance. What else did I write down? I wrote it down. That God will show you where to be involved, not only in church, but in their lives. And just how you can better reach your kids. Our kids. That's what we need. So if you want to pray, by yourself to this side, together this side, and you can come forward.
Won't you come as we sing? My trust, Jesus, and you are my God, and you are enough, Jesus. I give you my life, I give you my life, I give you my trust. Jesus, you are my God.